Okay, I'd like to call our meeting to order. If we stand for the invocation.
Lord, we pray that you will give our council members the faith and courage to carry on their duties, help them to do right, to deal fairly with others, and to place their trust in you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have the roll call, please?
Does everyone have their mics on? Becker?
Here.
Souter?
Here.
McBain?
Here.
Schlenker?
Here.
Challenger? Here. Simpson?
Here.
Blakeman? Wood?
Here.
Blaisdell?
Here.
Okay, you have a copy of the meeting minutes of March 17th, 2015. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, the minutes will stand. I have several communications tonight. The first is a letter from Karen Gratz. Columbiana City Council. I am writing in regards to your decision to enforce no dogs, horses, motorcycles in the cemetery. What is the difference between walking your dog in the park and walking your dog in the cemetery? There are fewer people in the cemetery than in the park, less chance of interaction. I lost my husband almost a year and a half ago. When we, my dog and I, come into town, it is to visit his grave and to walk. This has been our routine for almost a year and a half. You may not be able to feel what I'm saying, but it is a piece of time when we can be together. If dog walkers just wanted to walk or motorcyclists just want to ride, they wouldn't be in the cemetery. We are in the cemetery to visit our loved ones. I'm very upset and hope you will reconsider. Sincerely, Karen Gratz. We can talk about that later, or we can do whatever. And then I have two letters concerning the opening on the Civil Service Commission. The first is addressed to Mr. Lance Willard, City Manager. My name is Richard Sell. I reside at 133 Juniper Drive, Columbiana, Ohio, and have been a resident of Columbiana for 2 years and have lived in the Fairfield, Columbiana area for over 34 years. I've been married to my wife Elaine for 41 years, and we have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. I am writing this in order to express my interest in being considered for the vacancy on the Columbiana Civil Service Commission. As you can see by my resume, I have had a long-term interest in our community, gladly serving on several volunteer boards, as well as active membership in a number of service organizations. I was significantly involved in the civil service system in my previous employment with Boardman Township. As you may already know, in the late 1970s, Boardman was designated as an urban township and therefore became the first civil service township in Ohio. Further, I was the first officer promoted under that process and achieved all my various rank positions through civil service. Also, as an administrative captain with the police department, I dealt regularly with the commission in the hiring and promotion process involving dozens of officers. Thank you for your consideration in this manner, as I would like to be part of helping to continue the quality of service that the City of Columbiana provides to its citizens and visitors. Columbiana is a forward-moving community, and I would very much like to be part of its future. Please feel free to contact me at any time with any questions or concerns. Sincerely, Richard Sell. And he has attached his resume, which is very impressive. And we also have a letter from Gary Hart to Lance Willard, City Manager. I am writing to express my interest in the open position on the City's Civil Service Commission. Although I'm not currently a resident of the City of Columbiana, I live in nearby Fairfield Township, and I am the General Manager of Staff Right Services, which operates within the city. In addition to my affiliation with Staff Right, I am a member of the Board of Directors for the Columbiana Chamber of Commerce, and I am currently serving as President. For the past 8 years, I've been employed as the General Manager of Staff Right Services, which is a full-service staffing and recruiting firm. I am involved with every aspect of the business, which includes the recruiting, screening, and interviewing of candidates for placement at client companies. I feel that my experience in the staffing industry and my vested interest in the continued success of the city of Columbiana makes me an excellent candidate to serve on the commission. If you have any questions regarding my experience or would like to discuss them with this opportunity with me, please contact me or email me. Thank you for your consideration. Gary J. Hart, General Manager, Staff Right Services Incorporated. We have that later on the agenda, don't we?
Yes. it's
Okay,
on
we're good there. And we have one more. This is direct to Rebecca Green. It says, thank you so much for your participation in the 24th Annual Harvest for Hunger campaign. Encloses a copy of an article written by our campaign sponsor, The Vindicator, which mentions your efforts to collect food and raise funds for the Second Harvest Food Bank. Simply put, we could not do what we do without your friendship and support. On behalf of the hungry families in the Mahoning Valley, and on behalf of our Board of Directors, staff, and member agencies, please accept our thanks. With warm regards, Michael Iberis. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. So there we go. And that's the communications I have to read tonight. You have a copy of the Park Recreation and Cemetery Board meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2015. And I did notice by the length of their minutes, they're doing a lot of talking and things. There's 2 or 3 pages of minutes. Is there any comments on the Park Board minutes? Nobody? Okay, first, persons desiring to appear before council, we have Mr. Jack Guy.
Once again, I'm here to ask council's blessing for Independence Day, all-day program in the park on July 4th with a rain date of July 5th. We run an all-day program. It's a Chamber of Commerce that I'm representing. And it starts off with a fishing derby in the morning, the first thing, and we have canoe races for the kids, pet parade, games for the kids, sidewalk chalk contest, watermelon eating contest, an ice cream eating contest, 2 different bands playing, and a few other things I don't remember all. But anyway, it's culminated by fireworks at dark, so it's about the same program we've been running for many years, so everybody I'm sure has seen it.
Which is an excellent program. Last year I went over and watched the canoe races, and that's fun just by itself to watch.
Yeah, they have a real blast, them kids.
Anybody have any comments for Jack or motions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Do we need to think about a special dispensation to allow the fishing contest either one?
And why is that?
I'm doing it in a joking manner.
Oh, okay.
Jack, how long you been doing that?
15 or 20 years, I guess, somewhere in between 15 and 20.
You'd be commended.
You
You
are
are
right.
right, go Jack guys there.
It's been a long time, I know that. I keep trying to get out of it, but
Move to approve as requested.
Second.
Any comments from anyone else?
I had to do that, Jack.
I think the reason nobody will take it, nobody could do it as well as you do, Jack.
I don't know about that, but
So if there's no comments, Deanne?
Becker?
Yes.
Sauer?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Schwanneger?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes?
Thank you, Jack.
We thank you.
We appreciate you.
Hope you all show up out there and enjoy it.
Next on the agenda is DC Wellness and update on health insurance.
Good evening, members of council.
Evening to you.
Bob Gerhart Senior, Bob Junior. We're going to take you through an updated spreadsheet that is circulating from when we were last here 3 weeks ago. It's been updated with the most current claims, and once again this year we have a unanimous recommendation from the benefits committee made up of the four folks and all the union representation. Before we get to that, Bob will take you through the update since 3 weeks ago.
Since we last spoke, in the top box here, we've updated the 2014-2015 numbers to include 11 months of actual claims, 1 month forecasted, so more correct information. We did have an uptick from the last projections. We received the renewal from Mutual Health Services, which is in the second column on the spreadsheet. We've included the current plan designs and this year's rates at expected. We've included the renewal and those rates at expected. I'll then jump all the way to the right. We received a fully insured proposal from Anthem with their best benefit design and the corresponding premium. And then I'll move back here to the two United Healthcare columns, and we'll review those before moving forward. It was the recommendation of the Benefits Committee unanimously to move with the United Healthcare plans as presented here. There is 2 sets of rates, and the reason for that is that the rating is changing in your market, the 51 to 99 market, in 2016. This rating change occurred in the 2 to 50 market in 2013. To date, we have had only 2 clients who willingly entered the new rules and rating methodologies. Everyone else is grandmothering is the term they use, but hanging on to the old rates and the old rules as long as they possibly can. For the 2 to 50 market, the last day you could do that was December 1st of 2013. For your market, the last possible date to do that is October 1st of 2015. So you'll see that we have rates from 5/1 to 9/30, which would get you to that 10/1 date. And then there is a 3.9% increase that we would agree to at the time of moving the plan that would be in effect from October 1st of 15 all the way through to October 1st then of 2016 would be your renewal. And that would allow us to maximize playing by the old rules and methods. If we didn't elect that option, you would get your renewal next year on 5/1. You'd have the old rules and the old rates, the new rules and the new rates, and self-funding to evaluate again. But for 3.9%, we felt getting you that extra 5 months of relief was appropriate, and so did the committee. I'll stop right there before we get into the plan design aspects and discussing that, but are there any questions initially on what we've gone over so far? Alrighty, with that, I'll jump right into the plan designs. First of all, this plan is fully insured, so the numbers that you see at the bottom are both at expected and at maximum. That's what you'll pay for the healthcare over this period of time. The plan itself, if we start at the top and we look at deductibles, it is a 0 deductible plan. So what that means in the highest level is the only thing that goes toward this plan is co-payments. Primary care doctor, $15, $250 for the ER, $75 for urgent care, and your drug co-pays at the bottom. The easiest example I can think of is today, an office visit. If you're starting at 0, you go in for a sick visit, it's going to cost you about $90, and you're going to pay that because you'll be under your deductible. Under the new plan, you go in for that same visit, you'll pay a $15 copay. So it would take you 6 office visits to equal the cost of that first sick visit. So although the out-of-pocket maximums at the bottom do appear higher, the only thing that goes toward that is co-payments. So I'll pause there, and if there's any questions.
We've gone through every scenario that you're probably thinking of in your minds right now with the benefits committee. There are people on there or that they represent that have children. There are people where it's husband, wife. We've answered every what-if scenario that group could think of. And they are different plans in the manner in which they operate, but when you shake it all out, they're arguably comparable plans, and that's kind of what they felt, even understanding that the out-of-pockets are a little higher. And as we said, this was, after going through it all yesterday, they reached a unanimous decision. This was probably the way to go for the next 15 months.
So we would drop our self-funded
Mhm.
with this.
Yep.
And I have a question on that.
Sure.
Please.
On the self-funded, do they have a formula to say how much we would have to hold in there to handle claims that could come in later?
There is no exact number, but the run out. So a claim is incurred on April 30th. It's obviously not going to be magically paid in 24 hours.
How long do you have to hold that fund?
Well, you don't have to hold it for any period of time. You would obviously do that through the run out, and in our discussions, we had talked about a carry forward for the longer term. So
Like
we would,
6 months maybe?
a typical run out is usually either 90 days. In some cases, it's 120. Because we have a responsive administrator and there hasn't been a lag in claims, it would typically be 90 days.
Now I have another question. Why would anybody write us a policy costing less than the payouts have been over the last years?
That's a great question,
I know
and
that I worked for a company that every year you had to change insurance companies in.
yeah, that's a great question. Well, the claims this year, with the 1 month of forecast, have come in at $716,000. So it's less than the total cost of
So they
services.
are covering the,
They're covering the claims piece.
but it is low, isn't it?
Mhm.
Well, what we.
I mean, their price is low.
what
With that many claims.
What we had talked about, first of all, we wanted to look backwards. If we could have bought the services the way we did this last year, what would that have done to the numbers in the prior 4 years? We knew we were gonna pay the best discount this year. We didn't realize how strong that was going to be, and we probably had a little bit better year than expected. I think that a lot of that is also reflected in the fact that at expected this year, under the current administrator, also came in lower than where it was last year. So if the market trended down in that direction, people think it will be a better year, if you will, from a claims perspective. So we came in under what we did this past year, and the market is trending down in terms of what their outlook is.
One more question, I'll shut up then.
No.
You'll probably never can return to self-funded again after you go away from it, can you?
No, you can, and you will, and one of the discussions we had in more of a longer term scenario is because the fiscal year doesn't match the plan year, we will have somewhat of a surplus here for the rest of calendar year 15, which suggests some or all be set aside for the event that we did have to return to self-funding down the road. It's not a bridge that once you cross, you can't go back, and it's going to be part of the analysis moving forward. Next year, we will get a renewal on 10/1/16. We'll get it in advance, obviously, that will be fully insured under the old rating methods and the old plan designs. We'll get what's called an adjusted community rated quote. In the simplest level, it takes medical experience out of the rating equation. And as we said, in the 2 to 50 market, that was detrimental to almost all of our customers. And your third option then is a return to self-funding, and the carriers are scaling their self-funded products down a lot smaller. We have some that will self-fund down to 10 employees covered now. So the market is adjusting to the fact that your fully insured options moving forward, if you don't delay the deadlines as we are, would be get a rate without your medical experience in it, or if you're gonna self-fund, have your medical experience included, and as a result, they've taken their floor down to 10 covered employees.
I'm done, go ahead, guys, questions?
Yeah, so I understand that we have two unions that we negotiate contracts with, and I would assume, although I don't know, that healthcare is negotiated as a portion of those contracts. If these terms are different than the existing contract,
I can't,
I can take that one. Currently, they pay a percent of the premium. So if the premium is lower, they're gonna save money per month.
Okay.
And the premium is gonna be, calculated monthly. So on this plan, as far as the United Healthcare, for a single, for example, it would go down per month. Their paycheck would reflect that. They would have to pay less,
Yeah.
the same percentage.
Okay, I understand that, but if co-pays are different on one than the other, do they still have to pay the old co-pays that are in the contract? If there's deductibles, they still have to pay the old deductibles?
Okay.
I can speak for the police contract, and I believe the ASME unit is the same, just because we structured it that way, so we're all equal. There's nothing in the contract that specifies the rate schedule, the particular benefits. It talks about insurance, and it talks about the employee share, but in terms of saying you must do A, B, C, and D, it's not structured that way, and you people as council have the authority and the ability to change that at any point, even during the contract, in terms of what benefit schedule you'll deliver. And that's one of the reasons we looked at this, is the two charges we had from council at the time and the manager were to save the city the maximum amount of money we can while still maintaining a good and fair benefit for the employees. And that's why we're looking at this. And then Mr. Sloniger's question came in too. We didn't want to cross a bridge we couldn't get back from if we get out of self-funded. And then the next time, self-funded is the best way to go. How do we get there? And the answer is we take what's already budgeted, put that aside. In the event we would have to go back to be able to initially fund that program. But in terms of the contracts themselves, I believe your specific question is, does it specify the exact type and schedule? And the answer is no.
No, okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to get into some sort of.
Yeah, I don't think there is, and the union president from the OPBA union is on the committee, as is a member of the ASME unit, and there's no, it was a unanimous decision, including those two individuals.
And they were considering, at first appearance, you already talked about they already mentioned the out-of-pocket maximums. But this, the committee looked at it, for a single, for a child, for employee, spouse, and family, and thought it was, pretty comparable to what we had. As far as, there will be a significant savings, each month for each of those employees that are on either single employee, and that theoretically could be used towards that, in your mind as far as that $2,500 hour.
If they're satisfied with the $7,500 range for family?
With the understanding that that isn't $7,500, isn't really $7,500. As they explained a minute ago, that's the question everybody had, wait a minute, how in the world are we gonna afford this? When you think of it traditionally, it's like the first $7,500 can go in your pocket. That's not what this is. The only thing that goes toward the $7,500 for family is your co-pays. So your co-pays for your doctor visits, you have to go up, we figure 166 times or something like that.
well, if it's a $15 copay for primary care, if you went 100 times, you'd only be at $1,500. That's once every 30 days.
Doctor 100 times.
To get to the family for ER, you'd have to go 30 times in a year, 10 times for a single. So it truly, it is a higher number, but in terms of how you get there, it's
That's
much more difficult to get to that number.
So if somebody went into the hospital and the bill was $11,000, they're gonna pay.
The copay at the point in which they entered the system. So if it was an ER, it would be a $250 copay.
So it'd be a $250 copay, let's say they had surgery, that was $10,000. What would be the payout, and what would be the cost to them?
The copayment at the point in which they entered the system. A zero deductible means there is zero medical billing involved. It is truly a copay only plan is how they refer to it. So you would pay the copay at the level in which you entered the system of care, and beyond that, there would be no balance bill to the
For
employer.
instance, an outpatient surgery at your doctor that was $800, you'd pay a $15 doctor copay. He saw you in the office, it was done there. Yeah,
That was
using
the main
hospital.
consideration, was, the numbers are larger, but the mechanics of getting to the number worked out in such a way that the committee thought that between the savings on top of that,
The
they would be.
payroll savings.
So it's not like if you have an $8,000 surgery, you don't necessarily have a $2,500 deductible.
No.
Okay.
No.
You pay your copayment depending upon how you enter the system, through your doctor's office, through the ER, or what have you.
Okay, that makes sense.
I do have one more question. Mike, would the auditors like us to have an inactive fund with a balance like that?
That's something I probably have to check on. I mean, I can ask them tomorrow. They're here doing the audit already, so.
Sometimes they don't like that, do they?
That, I'd have to find that out.
You'd have to
I'm
find
not
that out.
sure, yeah. But one thing I did want to add to this is on the prescriptions, going to the fully insured would probably save us a lot of money because as of right now, that's getting to be a major cost for the self-funded is the prescription cost. And under this insurance, we don't need to be paying on the co-pays for the insurance or for the prescriptions. Where the self-funded, the employee still pays the co-pays, but then we get billed back for the.
That's gonna be a big amount saved.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
What do you think, guys and gals?
I have a question.
Please.
Does the $1,400,000 Anthem bid represent a harbinger of what's to come from United Healthcare next year?
That's what I was wondering.
It's difficult to say whether or not that was it. When you look at the benefit design as it exists today, it's very difficult to get to an equal benefit design from that perspective. We did have some carriers choose not to quote simply because they didn't have a competitive benefit plan. I don't think it's a harbinger of things to come because it would be a record year over the last 60 months, and we've established that at least, not last year, but the 4 years prior to that, we certainly had some inefficiencies that we tidied up over the last calendar year. I'll also say that from a risk profile perspective, when you look at high-risk claimants, that pool is dwindling. So I don't think it would be an accurate predictor of what's to come necessarily.
Meaning these are not continued, ongoing high-cost cases. Things may be fine and resolved.
On the chance that it might be such a harbinger, is there a way to lock in an increase on a percentage basis perhaps, or straight dollar figure basis for United Healthcare over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
There is not, and we asked that question last year when we came through the same thing. The reason that the extensions are being offered this year is people in our position are, rather than telling carriers, we're just going to go out to market again in October, carriers in the fully insured space are more willing to give you that bridge of 5 months and then 12 additional months at a preset rate. I'd say that the fact they came in at 3.9% says that they certainly feel good about it over 17 months. I think the escalator would have been larger had they thought there was something looming out there. And really it's
Or they may have just said, we'll offer you a renewal in August for October. So the 3.9%, as Bob said, they seem to be pretty confident with the risk makeup of the group now.
And again, if medical experience becomes a problem, after January 1st of 16, the 51 to 99 market is adjusted community rates. Medical experience is no longer taken into account. If you have your 53 covered employees and families that are fit as fiddles, they'll pay the same amount as those same 53 hypothetical people who are all in long-term, ongoing, high-cost treatment. They can no longer stagger the rates. So it's less of a concern than historically it would have been with that change on the horizon.
I know you said that it's possible to move back into the self-funded arena, given the terms of the Affordable Health Care Act as we understand it, as best we can understand it. Is a self-funded program accorded more or less legitimacy than fully funded?
More flexibility, yes. Legitimacy, no. I think that there's pros and cons to either side, and to say what will be best in 16 would be too difficult to say. It's easier to say if your medical experience benefits you, self-funding is the route to look. If your medical experience is working to your detriment, adjusted community rates would be the way to look. And the third option is holding on to the old rating method where your medical experience is still involved, but you're technically fully insured. Those are the three options, and we wanted to preserve all three of those for the longest possible frame of time, which is again why the staggered rates with the escalator on 10-1.
And as the discussions have taken place over the last 4 to 6 weeks, we kind of said it's almost the perfect storm right now to be going into this fully insured plan with a 17-month rate to preserve three options for next year. Those being play by the old rules, adjusted community rates, or self-funding, and the trend is trending downward. It just seemed to be if there was ever a right time to do it, this was the time.
If you remain self-funded, our next May renewal, we would either have self-funding or fully insured with no medical experience. Those
adjusted community rates
would be the two options. So as Bob said, this is the last time to take that third option, and that I assume was also part of the committee's thought process in going through. Any other questions?
This one, we talked about this last year, and there was a little bit more discrepancy in the numbers than this year. So as your heart said, it was a little bit harder of an argument to stay self-funded over last year from this year. If that makes any sense. It was more towards fully insured this year than it was last year, even though some of the numbers are the same.
When do we act on this, or now?
Well,
Is there
we
time
don't have
frame?
anything on the agenda tonight, to act on this. It would be next meeting. We could probably do an emergency. And Dan, I don't know, you know,
If we didn't do it as an emergency on the 21st, we'd have to have a meeting not less than 10 days thereafter to pass it on the second reading. It seems to me that an emergency action is appropriate in this situation. I know sometimes councils don't like to do these things on an emergency basis, but in reality, you've had ample time to consider it, and I would think doing it as an emergency on the 21st would be appropriate. If by chance there weren't 5 votes to do it, then there would have to be a second meeting on the 31st to consider it for a second reading. That's pushing it because I understand it has to be in place by the 1st.
May 1st.
Is that right? The safer, and you could address this tonight, a safer alternative, if you wanted to consider it twice, would be to schedule 2 special meetings so that you get to 10 days within the month of April. For example, have a meeting next week, you'd have your regular meeting on the 21st. Can't act on that on the 21st because you don't have a 10-day interval. So you have to have a special meeting between the 21st and the 31st to have it read the second time. So it's your call as council as to how you want to handle it.
I would think an emergency ordinance in this case would be okay. I don't know what the other fellows think.
I would think
If
at
there-
least a $200,000 savings is
Would be okay?
an emergency.
The only question would be, is there any reason why we won't be here? I mean,
Either you won't be here, or someone won't be here, or there's somebody opposed to doing it.
Yeah.
So when you're treating it as an emergency, you're going to rely on 5 yes votes. It's up to you.
I would probably, Ted, are you okay with emergency on this?
Yeah, I'm just kind of gonna listen to what Dan says here, and if by some chance, you know, you don't have the quorum of voters,
Then we have to
you
do
don't get it done in 10 days,
The 31st is the 10th day.
but that doesn't give,
It has to be in place by midnight on the 31st. Is that satisfactory? Yeah, it's not counting.
Counting the 21st?
Oh, that's right. You don't have a 31st. Thank you. You're right. That's right. Good point. I'm counting 31 days. We don't have it. So, the other scenario is the safer one. You want to call special meeting for the 14th and one on the 28th.
it all pays the same.
We don't get more?
What date's our regular meeting?
21st. But that's right, we're on 30-day month. I was thinking 31.
What's your wish?
Let's just do it.
Lady?
Special, 14th, 28th, let's just do it.
With this amount of money involved, I think it's probably worth it.
I don't think we should take the risk.
Yeah. I think we ought to do the special meeting if,
Two special.
Dan? Yeah, okay.
I'm not available on the 28th unless you do it at 5 o'clock, something like that.
Well, it should only be a 10-minute meeting probably.
I have Community Foundation meeting that night, and I'm their secretary.
Are you gonna give us money?
You're not gonna have anybody here to do the minutes.
I mean, if we let you go to the meeting, will you give us money?
When you go to the Community Foundation meeting, you can have whatever you want.
Next Tuesday you got planning, Tuesday you got planning, Tuesday it has to be early or late.
But I don't know if anybody else could be here.
You have to be
Is
there
it-
before or
You
after.
can't?
I can.
Can everybody be here at 5 o'clock? Dick, Mayor?
I'm pretty busy at 5 o'clock, but I'll try to be.
No,
You
the
can't?
28th,
No. 14.
April
14th at 5.
No, the 28th is the day
I thought it was
I'm
the
not available.
28th at 5.
But you want that also at 5 o'clock, do you not?
No,
On the
just the
28th.
28th.
On the 28th is the day I'm talking about, yes.
Okay, the
The
14th.
14th is Planning Commission.
Let's set 2 meetings then. The Planning Commission meeting minutes, so we need to meet before or after them, so let's meet before them. So that could be at 6:30 for that meeting even, but set a time, folks.
6:30 would be fine.
6:30?
Can we do it earlier? Can we do 5:30?
5:30 is okay. Just have more time with your dog then.
Okay, 5:30.
5:30 the 14th. The second meeting date is, special meeting date, Dan, is 28th. And that meeting also at 5:30?
That one's at 5.
Oh, you had to be at 5.
If you want me here.
Okay, we want you here to record.
Now, do we have to check with Brian?
No,
Need a motion to that effect?
yeah, could I have a motion to set these 2 special meetings?
Point of order. Is that a Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay. Both those days should be good. I think the next mayor's course is the 21st. I just want to make sure we're in between. So the 14th and the 28th are 2 dates you're talking about? Should be good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set 2 special meetings, the 14th and the 28th. Any more discussion? Dan?
Souter,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schwanneberg.
Yes.
Callender,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes. Better keep it happy.
somebody has to.
And gentlemen, I think you've done an great example of explaining. I think we understand it.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
So,
Good job.
Thank you. You have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you want to see that. Anybody else in the audience would like to speak tonight? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, members of council and department heads of the city. My name is Attorney Rob Bouffard, and I am counsel for the Flynn Auto Group and Columbiana Buick Cadillac Chevrolet is the subject matter of my appearance here tonight. It was somewhat last minute, so I want to explain that David Flynn would have been here tonight, but he was obligated to a Cadillac meeting up in Cleveland, so he sent me. So you go from the topic of health insurance to hearing from a lawyer, so trouble staying awake, I'll understand. The subject matter involves the 3 railroad crossings at Main Street, Elm Street, and Pittsburgh Street. And I'll tell you this, I've learned more about railroad crossings in the last 10 or 12 hours than I thought existed, but the goal here is to make council aware, make the city aware of the dire situation that potentially exists with respect to the dealership. And to also seek the city's support and also pledge the Flynn Auto Group support to work together to hopefully accomplish what hundreds of other communities in the United States have accomplished when it comes to quiet zone or silent railroad crossings. I always thought they were sort of folksy to have that whistle when I'd be in my office and talking with either David or somebody else. You know, once a day or once a week, it was kind of folksy to hear that horn blow. But I've come to learn that the majority of the communities, I don't know what the pulse is here at Columbiana, they feel they're somewhat of a nuisance, and so long as safety of the crossing can be preserved, communities and governments are going to silent crossing. The dire situation that I talk about is the fact that General Motors, who is, I'll call him the Goliath, and coincidentally David is David Flynn. General Motors is dictating where the dealership is to be located. These are franchises. They can be pulled at any time for any number of reasons. The dealer agreement can be non-renewed. Based upon the number of complaints that General Motors has received over the years from customers about the horn whistles, both during the experience that they're at the dealership. General Motors is asking David Flynn to move the dealership, sort of split it up in 2 parts. Cadillac franchise would move to Donnell Ford in Borden, and the Buick and Chevrolet franchises, they want to move out to routes 14 and 46 on some property that's currently owned by Phantom Fire. The example of some of the, I don't know whether to call them abuses, extraordinary circumstances, is frequently the westbound train passing the Main Street crossing continues to blow the whistle at and beyond the body shop unnecessarily. And it's easy for this body to figure out, and the city to figure out, that if such a relocation was accomplished, there are 87 employees at the dealership, and Mr. Flynn, who lives outside the city but is employed at the dealership, his income would not be taxed by the city. I haven't run the numbers. Maybe there's somebody here who could do that, but it would be substantial if that were to occur. Now, in terms of a bit of a chronology on this topic, and again, my whole purpose here is to make council aware and to seek the city's cooperation in trying to reach a resolution. For almost 40 years, Mr. Flynn's owned this dealership and has tried to find a solution to the horn blowing. The last 18 months, given the onslaught and the silent crossings that are happening across the country, he's been working to try to obtain that status for a silent crossing at those three crossings. I just did a brief Google, there's that word again, on the internet, in Olmsted Falls, not too far from us, in 2012, that clearly celebrated the silence beginning at midnight on April 17, 2012. The safety issues, and again, I'm just learning about this, but as opposed to a barricade that drops down on the, let's use Main Street as an example, on the southbound lane of traffic, there are two barricades on both sides of the railroad crossing. And that prevents any traffic from entering once those barricades are down. And there's a county in California that also was at the top of the Google search that I did. Orange County, big county, 52 railroad crossings were converted to quiet zones. And yes, it cost a lot of money. Let's talk about the money. It's my understanding, my client's understanding, that in this process, when your city manager and David began working on this, that there was a hire of an engineering firm, I'm not sure of the name, but their estimate, including man hours and police hours in terms of the conversion process, the transition, was $195,000. Now, in January of 2015, as I said, there have been some meetings with the city manager, Mr. Flynn, and in January 2015, Mr. Flynn contacted Jason Wilson, who is with Governor Kasich's office, and I'm not sure the formal name, but it has something to do with the funding grants that are available through Appalachia and for this area. At that point in time, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Flynn, and your city manager met, and there was $100,000 available at that point in time toward the total cost of $195,000. Of course, there was other funds perhaps available as well. In March, that meeting occurred, just to, again, continue the timeline. And then apparently, and I emphasize apparently, due to a number of reasons, perhaps a lack of communication, we were informed, my client was informed that $50,000 of that $100,000 had been reallocated elsewhere because the original $100,000 grant, or the application for that, was not being pursued. I don't know how all that works. Perhaps you people being in government have a better sense of it. But the dire situation of when I speak is the potential for relocation. you're probably wondering what the timing is. Mr. Flynn's held off General Motors for 18 months. General Motors has issued a deadline of June 1st, 2015, for the project to begin. Don't ask me what the definition of project beginning means, but that's why I'm here to emphasize the time crunch that we're under and to seek the cooperation of the city and pledge Mr. Flynn's cooperation as well in somehow getting the project started so that General Motors will allow the dealership to stay put. And that's Mr. Flynn's desire. That's, I assume, the city's desire to have him remain there. And with that, I'd be happy to answer questions with the proviso that I may not be able to answer them, but I certainly do appreciate the opportunity at the last minute to appear and address you. And that's all I have to say for right now. Question?
To be blunt, is Mr. Flynn prepared to pay a portion of this cost, or?
I told you, those are questions I can't answer. I'm not.
You said in cooperation with.
Well, how about time and energy? But beyond that, it would appear that there are plenty of grant funds and other resources available. And as I say, the more extensive Google search and research by us in cooperation with each other, and Jason Wilson's involvement, and perhaps Governor Kasich's involvement, I'm sure those resources could be sought and hopefully obtained.
The timeline might be very quick to do that, though.
Well, again, project started. Maybe it's defined that if we somehow get an unofficial support from the city and send that to General Motors and show progress, perhaps that's all that's necessary.
I think, Lance, you have lots to say on this, don't you?
I do.
I was afraid of that.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep it brief. Basically,
No, go ahead.
everything that you said, I agree with. I did meet with Mr. Flynn early on, and I told him that I would work as hard to keep him here as I do, try to attract other businesses. We have a lot of business meetings that we're trying to attract people, and we sit down with grant funding agencies and everything. I don't know where the miscommunication is or was about the application for the, because, I'm the person that did it. I have in my hand an application for the quiet zone through Omega, which is Jason Wilson's office. And I applied for $97,300. That is exactly half of the $194,600. I applied that, it was March 25th, I believe. Yeah, March 25th. And then yesterday, I spoke to another person at the Omega office, Dana, excuse me, and she and I had worked on this application, and after reviewing it, she recommended that I change that $97,300 to $50,000.
Because
That's what she recommended me doing.
okay.
And I've worked with Omega a lot. I've got a call into Jason Wilson. Actually, I emailed him on Monday right after that conversation. And I am, passionate about this project, trying to, get funds. We have a couple other vehicles that we're thinking about doing. I checked with Dan just today and Mike last week. We have to double check with the auditor's office, but we're thinking about creating some type of community capital improvement donation fund, a line item, and perhaps other, whether it be residents or businesses could maybe donate money towards a project, and we may even call the first project a quiet zone project. So that may be another vehicle. As a city manager, after reviewing the $194,000 quote that Dallas Dawson and Associates provided to us, I would, as a city, I would recommend that the city maybe provide the engineering services, which would reduce that cost. So I think that would be something that we might be able to do, or at least the construction management portion of it, if not permits and advertising for it. So kind of the typical cost of other projects that we would be working on, whether it was a water line project or whatever. I spoke to representatives from ODOT today, Omega, and they're all excited about the project. It's kind of a cutting edge. The North Olmsted project took, I believe, if it's the one I recall, because I did all that research, there's the 4. Took 4 years to get that done. And I think we're gonna do it, or we could do it within 3. Because I went to visit Mr. Flynn March, I believe, of 2013, when we first started talking about this, and it's just kind of snowballed from there. I think I could, and I can, and I will continue to look for gap funding. If that grant actually works out to only be $50,000, then we would hit the road again and try to look for more grants. But I've spoken to Ohio Rail Commission. They do not offer any grants on quiet zones. ODOT has helped getting me in touch with the right people from Ohio Rail Commission and National Rail Association. I do want to stress, when you implement a quiet zone, it's very scientific. Currently, the hazard index or risk index at all 3 combined crossings is 47,281.89. After, and what those numbers mean, I don't know. But I can tell you this: after we were done and implemented a project like this, it would reduce it by 60%, and it would be 60% safer, and the risk index would be 19,716.55, and that is given to us by the National Rail Association that has the calculator right on there. I could pass the blueprints, and I'd be more than happy to meet with each council person about this, and I can show you, but these are the rough drawings, and I can show you what we would do to save money. Well, I'll give you another history on this. Previous administrations have attempted to do this, but the costs were elevated at the time because we didn't have what I call smart boxes at each one of the crossings. And since over time we've got the Cadillac, if you will, of boxes out there. So they have the best technology there is out there, which we would not have to spend. So on this project, that I believe the project could have cost upwards $700,000 in previous time, but since we have this smart technology, we're able to capitalize on that. And just a point of order, this particular pass around a picture. This particular project is called a raised median project, and I've got pictures of what it would look like. But it's kind of like a 6-inch block curving that sticks up between the north and southbound lanes, as it will, preventing a car from going left for the last 100 feet before you hit the crossing, which deters the people from driving around. the point of order here is I do not believe, as we stand, we're not going to affect the actual gate that comes down or the length of the gate. But this is option 12 on National Rail Association's website to mitigate this risk, reduce it, and it is a scientifically proven to be safer. So for the residents, their number one concern and our number one concern is going to be safety, and it's going to be safer when we're all said and done if this project were to move forward.
If I may be so bold, I found a sketch of what they did in Orange County, and they described the very raised medians that exist. So pass that around, you can make that part of your file.
Sure. We also, as part of the grant application, we did get a letter from Mr. Flynn in support of the project.
You say you need one?
No, we did.
Oh, did get it, okay.
And we met the April 3rd deadline. To do that.
Well, again, if I may be so bold, it sounds like a meeting might be in order. Vance, what do you think?
It will be.
Okay.
I have to speak to Jason and see what else he had in mind.
Sure. Okay. Mission accomplished from my perspective, to make the city aware of the dire situation, and again, pledge this cooperation with the Flint Auto Group to keep that unique dealership right where it is. Thank you.
I think that there are advantages to the community for this, even if that weren't the case. Safety is one aspect that's really important, but virtually everybody in town hears the train whistles as well. So, I live probably 3/4 of a mile away from the railroad tracks, but I hear them every single day, even with windows closed. So I guess just in trying to show additional support, I'd like to move that we here on council express support for this concept and instruct Lance to continue to pursue the concept and additional grant money and so on to make this happen as we can.
And that certainly would be welcome. Appreciate that. And that was, they talked about quality of life in these articles. Apparently, I'm not sure, do the horns blow during the night as well here?
They can.
They can.
Yeah.
Right. So they talked about disruption of sleep, et cetera, et cetera.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Due to my looking at this paper, Deanne, would you read back what the motion was?
To support the concept and to have the city manager continue to pursue grant funding for the project.
Could I add to that the urgency of the deadline, because of the urgency of the deadline?
I happily
You-
add that to my.
you add
I'll
to
add that to my, in consideration of the urgency of the deadline to get work started on this project.
Anybody else want to add something? You want to add something?
Only that you full speed ahead, as they say in the railroad business.
I worked across the street from the dealership, probably longer than Mr. Flynn's owned it. And I guess you get accustomed to the train until somebody brings it to your attention. Like when you're on the phone in the office and somebody says, where's that train? And I said, well, apparently it's going right through my office because that's all I can hear.
I would live, 100 yards from the railroad track and about a quarter mile from the railroad track most of my life. And this wasn't as big a problem to Norfolk and Southern. Boy, those fellas like that horn.
That was pointed out in the Olmsted Falls article that I read.
They just, and I swear, if they've got 3 locomotives, every horn on them blow. And I live better than a quarter mile from the railroad tracks. In the summertime, it sounds like that train's gonna come through my bedroom at night. I mean, this would definitely help me.
Okay, Deanne? This man's probably on the clock costing Mr. Flynn money.
Take your time.
McBain?
Yes.
You're welcome. Schwanniger?
Yes.
Callender?
Do you want me to prolong?
You might want to consider it and take a recess.
Susan?
Yes, and I know the time is 6
Oh.
minutes.
Strike that from the record.
I'll call Dave in the morning.
Yeah.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes. I'll do you one up, Dick, you'll probably be over and see me anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the audience?
Aren't you going to tell me I have to stay for the entire meeting?
Well, I don't, as,
Yes.
maybe as well off as,
Actually,
maybe
it
as
is
well
quite
off as
rude to get up
Dave
and walk
is.
out the middle.
I don't know if he could afford it.
That's right.
Anyone else in the audience like to speak tonight? Okay, let's move on to Lance's report.
I met with representatives from RR&B. We had talked to them, and they had come to us about the pocket park next to Ryan's News. And they got a proposal from HRG, from Tim Tran, who's actually in the audience right here. He presented to them within the last 2 weeks a kind of a final, I guess, a whole package of what it may look like. And it's RR&B's plan to come to April 21st to show you their full concept. They're gonna have a PowerPoint presentation. What they've asked from me is, you know, what could the city do towards this project? And Jesse from the street department has talked to them about, you know, there's concrete there that needs to be ripped up, and we could do that in preparation for the project. They also asked us about storm. I'm looking into it, because any stormwater issues that, or material that we may already have on hand. I don't believe we have any, but we're gonna double check. But their main thing right now is restrooms. It would be public restroom. It would be kind of a plug-and-play type unit that, this thing is, I think I'm gonna directly quote Tim, is it's built like a tank. You can spray it down with a water hose and stuff. I talked with Terry from the park, and he said it would be no problem throughout the summer to go ahead and service that once it got put in. It is a large part of the project, I believe upwards of $60,000. And then it's a really nice, it's gonna be a really nice presentation to have. I think they have a really nice concept. But the main addition that they're considering is the restroom. And, I believe that they're gonna potentially ask you for help on that particular part of the project. You know, to have public restrooms. Now, they went so far to be able to lock those automatically at 11 o'clock or whatever time. You know, so we should not have a problem with vandalism, and I'd probably talk to the chief, and maybe we could get one of our cameras out there in the park also at the same time. So just wanted to bring you up to speed there, that we've been working together. Actually, Mary's been attending the meetings, and she's been filling me in. So they'll be here next week, well, next regular meeting. Let's see. We have had several business attraction meetings here, and went to a few. Hopefully, something develops from those, and I'll be more than happy to tell you about them when it does occur. You have a few of those scheduled here coming up soon, too. The bids were open for the fuel line and asphalt advertisements. Those are on the agenda tonight. We've been talking about the wastewater generator for a while. We've had a lot of problems with it. We put it in the budget to purchase that this year. And I've asked for permission on the agenda to not only purchase it, but also sell the old one and to remove the old one as a motion on the final agenda tonight. That would authorize us to advertise for that, and we will bid it as 2 bid items, one for the new generator. Bid item number 2 would be to they would have to tell us how much they're gonna pay for the generator, but they have to remove it. And that's what, I would have legislation, or be able to advertise it soon after you pass that motion. But we have to have authorization to, get rid of such a large piece of equipment. Electric department, Doug's looking at, I think he's about got it, the bucket truck information for a future purchase, which was in the budget. Crews are trimming along, well, they're complete now, or along 14, a couple other areas. I've passed some pictures around, I'm sure you've seen some of it, but Jesse's got some before and after pictures. This well on 14 that you're gonna see, we're right near Timberline Drive and Lucretia. Not only does it make it look, the area look good, it makes it look safer, or it is safer, because you can see, it's also gonna be very valuable when it comes to, the north water main projects that we're gonna have. It'll all be cleared out, ready for them to come in. We won't have that as a line item on there. The street crews worked on Quincy and Eureka. They've actually dug some parts out and patched it using hot mix and a roller. And they started street sweeping today, and they'll continue to do that. To give you a geese update, there have been a few flocks that have came in, but the crews have got right on it and shot the bangers and screamers and got them out of here, so they're not sticking around. The sewer guys have really been working hard. I think this is the best ever effort made to clean the sewers, because it was always it's always on the agenda to do, but we've never got it done. They're working on cleaning all the clay lines in the city right now, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. They're doing a lot of streets we haven't done in years, so not only preventative maintenance, but we're doing, we went from the past 30 years from just doing emergencies to preventative maintenance, so that'll be nice. And they're also using the GIS to coordinate that so we can track the lines that we clean. Those harmonic balancers, or harmonic filters for the plant, we ordered them, and we should be installing those soon. And then Matt and I have been working on Hausenberg on that Route 14 water line project. You've got the mayor's court report, police department report for February and March, the EMS department report. And then you have the bid line, the bid results for the line, the gas and the asphalt. And that's all I have, Cole.
That's all you have?
Yeah.
Okay,
That would put us at G and H under my report.
let's go to G. We need a motion to authorize the city manager to advertise for purchase of a new generator for the wastewater treatment plant.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that. And as Lance said, that was put in the budget, right, Mike?
Yeah, and just to comment down below where there's the ordinance to add $40,000, that was already added. I went over that at the last meeting where I changed it in the sewer fund budget, but I forgot to change it on the ordinance that was passed. So we need to get it on the ordinance for it to be legal.
If nothing else, Deanne?
Schoniger?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Okay, and then we need a motion to authorize the city manager to sell or remove the old, sell and remove the old generator.
So
Motion
moved.
on that.
Seconded.
Discussion on that one. Dan?
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schwank.
Yes. Okay, are there any, you have a copy of the bill list before, as of 4/17/15. Any comments or questions on the bill list? If not, that will stay in. Okay, no old business on the list, let's go right into new business. I need a motion to appoint a member to the unexpired seat on the Civil Service Commission, the term ending 5/15/2017. And I think there's, we have one application from someone outside the city limits, and then checking with the charter.
Yeah, the rules and regulations of the Civil Service Commission, actually. the first
It has to be someone that lives in the city. So the two applications were Richard Sell and, lost my paper on the other name. Derek Carr, yeah. So could we have a motion to appoint someone to the Civil Service Commission?
Move we appoint Richard Sell to the unexpired term of, just lost his name.
Rick Knowles.
Rick Knoll.
I'll second
Any discussion? Deanne?
Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schwank.
Yes.
Callender. Yes.
Okay, under ordinances, we have a number of ordinances. Due to their length, could I have a motion to read them by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that? Deanne?
Becker,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schwank.
Yes.
Callender. Yes. Simpson,
Yes.
Ordinance number 15-0-2808, the first reading. An ordinance amending section 1 of ordinance number 14-0-2752, establishing rates of pay for part-time employees of the Firestone Pool for the city of Columbiana. I have a motion on this ordinance.
so moved.
Seconded.
And discussion on this. Deanne?
Sauer,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schwank.
Yes.
Callender. Yes. Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 15-0-2809, the first reading. An ordinance enacting and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances for Columbiana, Ohio, dated September 2014. Motion on this ordinance.
So moved.
second.
And Dan or Lance, could you go over the reasons for this?
This is just a yearly update of the,
What's required?
what's required of all the previous changes or from the previous year, I should say.
Okay. There's nothing new than other than,
Now, what we, just all the ordinance that we changed up until September 14th.
okay. Any comments? Deanne?
McBain,
Yes.
Schwank.
Yes.
Callender. Yes. Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Ordinance number 15-0-2810, an ordinance amending appropriation ordinance 15-0-2803 by adding $40,000 in the sewer fund, all for the payment of current expenses as they may arise. Motion on this?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Deanne?
Schwank.
Yes.
Callender. Yes. Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Souter,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Ordinance number 15-0-2811, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Mid-Ohio Valley Lime Incorporated, State Route 7, Marietta, Ohio, for the purchase of lime for the water plant. Motion on this ordinance.
So moved.
second,
Any discussion on the lime? Dan?
Callender,
yes,
Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Souter,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schlenker,
Yes. Ordinance number 15-0-2812, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Light and Oil Company, Youngstown, Ohio, for the purchase of gasoline and diesel fuel. Motion on this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Dan?
Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Souter,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schlenker,
Yes.
Callender,
yes,
Ordinance number 15-0-2813, first reading. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Tri-County Materials Incorporated, North Lima, Ohio, for the purchase of asphalt. Motion on this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on this? Dan?
Becker,
Yes.
Souter,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schlenker,
Yes.
Callender,
yes,
Simpson,
Yes.
And we do have an executive session scheduled, but before we go to that, since most people leave, is there any council comments tonight? Any words of wisdom?
I'd just like to ask the chief a question. We're seeing in the news every day about the heroin overdoses. You know, there is something out there that might save a life, and we all know that whoever that is has to bottom out before they seek help. And I was just wondering, had you thought about or where we might accrue these particular meals that, with the lack of the other term?
Actually, there's grant funding available to offset purchase of some of that. I'm exploring some of that right now. Obviously, if we're able to save a life with something as simple as an emergency injection, we should consider that. We haven't had any overdose deaths from the bad heroin. There's ain't such thing as good heroin. That has plagued Trumbull County, but if it's there, it's everywhere. But I know that you can work through the Attorney General's office. There are grant funds available to offset some of that purchasing and work like that.
Anyone else?
The letter from the lady about walking the dog.
Yeah.
We haven't really done anything as far as making a new law or anything. We're just kind of, I guess, enforcing what's in existence, or
I can feel for the ladies.
I can too. But I, you know, I don't, how do we handle something?
That's a good point for discussion.
Small discussion. Back when my old motorcycle was new, most of you here remember that, my motorcycle was more expensive than most new cars at that time. And it was quieter than most new cars. Okay? But we weren't allowed to take a motorcycle into the cemetery. The reason for it being is respect for the dead. And I believe the same is with the dog. If a lady wants to go into the cemetery with her dog in the car, I see nothing wrong with that. But then again, if somebody's walking their dog in the cemetery and they decide to defecate on my father's grave, I'm upset.
I had the same thought.
So,
I had some other thoughts there, but
If you understand what I'm saying, the motorcycles were excluded out of respect to the debt. Let's face it, many an automobile makes a lot more noise than a lot of your motorcycles. But it's out of respect to the dead. And the same with the horses and the dogs. We're kind of forgetting what most of us here were brought up with. You know, we don't make a lot of noise in the cemetery. If you went, you know, kids don't play ball in the cemetery, what have you. That's how it grew up.
Yeah, I would agree with Dick. I mean, I have both a motorcycle and a whole bunch of dogs, and would consider taking either one of them to the cemetery.
Well, it's not like she couldn't take the dog into the cemetery in her car
Right,
and
leave
carry
the
her
dog in the
dog.
car.
Well, she could carry her dog, she didn't put the dog down. It's not like it's gonna run around.
I can't carry my dog.
I'd like to watch it.
So we're in agreement that if she takes her, probably the next best thing she's got into the cemetery in the car, would it be okay if she then had the dog on a leash and walked it to the grave and nothing else? And back?
I think that's a question for the chief.
I think that puts us in a very tough spot enforcement wise. It's one of those things where the law is a double-edged sword, and for everything that cuts one way has to cut the other, and unfortunately, there's always gonna be somebody that's wronged by that. I think that maybe Mary hit on a solution, because as you said that, I was thinking, what would I charge someone with who was carrying a dog? And I don't know if there's anything I could charge them with. She could possibly, if the dog was of a size, could carry the dog to the grave and hold it in her arms, possibly that wouldn't be walking the dog, I don't know. But if you put it on a leash and let it roam on a leash, then I think you're.
No, right to the grave. Statistics have shown that the first 2 years after a spouse has been lost, okay, it's really, really tough on the survivor.
We're completely sensitive to that. I just don't know how we sort it out or figure it out on who we charge, or who we don't, or who we warn.
I guess it has to be a little common sense involved there.
There would, and the common sense and the law sometimes don't jive well.
Well, I understand.
Okay, we're gonna leave it at that. We'll go by Mary's rule. She can drive it in the car and carry it.
Mary's rule.
Let's put that in the
Hereby
minutes.
can
Mary's
confirm
rule.
Mary's rule henceforth.
See, Mary, that's the reason why I think you need to run for council.
I do
again.
too. The only comment I have tonight, I really appreciate this council we have now. Everybody takes an interest, does their homework, knows what they're talking about. Well, maybe present accepted, but
A couple of them should get senile.
a little bit. But I've seen in past years, people came to the council meeting and they opened their packet. And that was the first that was opened from the time it was delivered, and that's not the case in the present council, and I do appreciate that. So if no further ado, could I have a motion to go into executive session, and that will be for?
Discussion of purchase of property, and there may be action afterward.
And the number you have for Deanne, or does she know that?
Yes, she knows.
She knows it.
T2.
Diane knows our innermost secrets, doesn't she?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Deanne?
Souter,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Callender,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
who else?
I don't know.
Schleiniger.
I move we come out of executive session.
Second.
Discussion? Deanne?
McBain,
Yes.
Schleiniger,
Yes.
Callender,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Souter.
Yes.
Being as this is a new resolution, it's resolution 15-R-474. It's getting late, but I am going to read it. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement to purchase certain real estate deemed necessary and appropriate for continuing and efficient operation of the electric department. Whereas the city of Columbiana is in need of additional real estate for the municipality, whereas the council of the city of Columbiana has made the determination that real estate herein described will serve such purpose. Now therefore be it ordained by council of the city of Columbiana County, Columbiana, State of Ohio. Section 1, that the city manager be and hereby is authorized to enter into an option agreement setting forth the sum of $76,500 and a purchase agreement setting forth a purchase price of $380,000, all for the intended purchase of lot number 31 in the Columbiana Industrial Park. Upon the conditions of the city manager shall be satisfied with the results of the Phase 1 environmental study, and the city manager be satisfied with evidence, title, and the availability of funds sufficient to satisfy and all existing liens upon the subject premises, and that the city manager shall have obtained the approval of ample hire for said expenditures. That the funds required for the purchase of the above referenced real estate shall be appropriated from the electric fund, and the finance director shall provide certification of the availability of such funds as shall be necessary to the purchase. Section 3, that publication of the resolution shall be by short form in accordance with section 16.15B of the amended charter of the city of Columbiana. Section 4, that the resolution shall take effect and be in full force and virtue at the earliest point in time permitted by the provisions of the amended charter for the city of Columbiana. In all the years I've been here, I've never read one in full before.
Well,
So could we have a motion on this
So
resolution?
Second.
Discussion on this resolution.
Yeah. Purpose of this for the electric company, I guess I have two questions. One is, do we anticipate cost savings from this, from reduced maintenance costs, from reduced theft, from reduced different things like that? And if so, have we put any numbers on what that would be?
Now, it'd mainly be the consequence of building on our current property down at the water shop for expansion, because we're just growing. We just put a new salt bin down there for the street department. This will give us some area by vending the electric out of there. The street department will be able to use that area, because everything for the electric department will go out there on site, including transformers.
Okay, so we don't have anything stored out in the open at this time that could be put under cover? I mean, like wiring? maybe
Yeah, the wire will be
substations?
there will be disposal wire that will be put inside. That is that's definitely a plus. But the transfers the transformers will simply be transferred from outside to outside.
And my second question is, do we anticipate this is going to cause any significant increase or decrease in the electric rates?
No, we actually did a feasibility study, and that was part of AMP's finance request. In order to go in to get the loan, and John Courtney and Associates performed that, and they believe that we do not have to raise rates in order to make this purchase.
That's a good thing. Anybody else? Former Mayor Simpson. You look tired.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We have a motion and a second.
As long as our rates are constant for our electric and not raising them, that we've asked the people for a lot up to this date and time. So that point is well made.
It is well named. Anyone else? Deanne?
Schwanneger?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter,
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Okay, we've already been through council comments, so if there's nothing else to come
You
before.
want to change the meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you're right. As was explained by the chief of police, if we put on the first special meeting, if we put it on as an emergency and it passes, we won't have to have the second special meeting. So we needed a change, what do we want to change to
We just
this?
need to have the
First.
ordinance presented as an emergency ordinance.
On the 14th.
On the 14th.
14, just
And then if it
withdraw.
would need be, we could set another special meeting at that time.
If it didn't pass as an emergency, you could have the 28th meeting on the 28th.
You know,
So, just leave everything as is, and we'll just present it as an emergency.
just cancel the second meeting,
Yeah,
okay?
and then we'll cancel it if it passes.
Do we need to have any? We
No,
need to
you
do
don't need-
anything more?
No, don't need to do anything at this point in time. We just want to advertise that second meeting until the
So we
14th.
don't-
Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.